I encourage people to focus on your craft more than you focus on the tools that do your craft. I know guys that have the shittiest tools and they can do the best work. I know guys that have the nicest tools and they can't put a plumb line up, right? So it is what it is. All right, guys, we're gonna dive into speed squares. We have the Swanson speed square, we have the Empire speed square, we have the Squijig speed square, we have the Milwaukee speed square, and we have the 4-inch or 4.5-inch Swanson speed square. Now, technically, none of these are speed squares except for the Swanson. I believe Swanson has a patent on the name speed square. So technically, with all of these, they are framing squares, carpentry squares, whatever you want to call them, rafter squares. I don't even know what people call them. But that's technically what they're called. Just some input from you guys. If you guys disagree or if I'm not right, I think I'm right. But I want to go through all of these speed squares and kind of show you what I like about some of them, what I dislike about some of them, which one I would recommend you buying depending on what stage of construction you're in. So the first one is the Swanson Speed Square. This is a no-brainer. Now, if I would say if you're starting in the industry, like maybe you don't have a ton of experience, the Swanson Speed Square is the way to go. Not only can you use this as a beginner, you could use this till the day you're done building. It is a great speed square. Now, this is the older version. There's a newer version that's actually much better than this one, which I do have, but I obviously can't find. And I'll tell you why I don't like the older version and why the newer version is a no-brainer to go out and purchase. The new version does not have the 1.5 inch spacing for stud layout. So some of these squares, or one of these squares that I have, has an 1.5 inch layout from the outside mark. I'll just show you here. The outside mark, you can mark it, and then on the inside you can mark it, and that would be a stud layout. That would be a 1.5 inch marking. The old speed square does not have that. If you're a framer, that is something that you really do want on your square. With the new Swanson, you can get that. That's my only real complaint for a base square at this price. The other issue is that these markings where you want to scribe, if you want to scribe 1 inch, if you want to scribe, 1.25, 1.5, these are marked at, I think, every 1/4 inch, I believe. And they only go to 3 inches, barely go to 3 inches. Which is just not really helpful to most people in the trades. So it's limited. The newer one has a little bit more room and has a little bit more depth to their scribe marks. But overall, the newer one's great. It's not the best, but it'll get the job done, no problem, no questions asked. I love how it is engraved. So basically there's an indentation at each mark. You can kind of hear that. When I run my pencil across it, you can hear that it's indented. So you're not going to rub off these marks. You're not going to lose these marks. You can still be very precise. Swanson Speed Square, definitely an awesome, awesome choice for anybody who's getting into the trades or is in the trades and just wants a cost-effective speed square. The next one is the Empire, which I really wouldn't recommend for anyone. If you're doing this for fun, if you're doing this in a wood shop or something like that, by all means, it's a square. It's going to get you a 45-degree angle. It's going to get you a straight line. It's going to get you your rafter markings, your hip and valley, all those other things. But one thing I've noticed is this one got dinged up pretty easily. You can see the back side's pretty messed up. You can see that I'm losing some precision here. It too has some engraving in it, so it will also stay for a while. But if you look closely on the edge, you'll see that there is some wear, and the precision, if I'm doing rafters, the precision isn't as great as it could be. But again, it's still great, and this is very old, so obviously it'll still stand up. One issue that I have with it is the same with the old Swanson, is you don't have that 1 inch mark here, so you're not going to be able to mark your stud layout, which isn't that great. I don't like that. It does have a little bit of a rafter table on the back for your rafters. The next one, let's go with did we do the Milwaukee one? I don't think we did the Milwaukee one yet. The Milwaukee one is a great speed square. I personally, for the price, it's not as good as it should be. I think, one, it dings up very well. I believe it's kind of like an aluminum or something. I don't know, but it got dinged up fairly easily. And I only used this. I left my square on a job site, and I bought this and maybe had it in my bags for a couple months, and it got pretty destroyed. You can hear that there is no indentation on this one. So these are, I think, laser engraved or something. So you can lose those over time, which isn't a great option. The other issue, just like the other two, is you don't have that 1.5 inch marking on the inside for your stud layout, as well as you don't have a whole line here to really go all the way up to the dimensions that I would like it to go up to, because there's just this square, which I believe is for a plumbing application. I'm not too sure about that. And then on this bottom side, you have 1 to 4 inches of marking. But overall, not a bad square, but I would recommend the Swanson. If you're gonna pay this price, you're gonna get more out of the Swanson than you're gonna get out of the Milwaukee. Here, I won't talk too much about it. This is the 4.5 inch Swanson Speed Square. This came with the new version that I got. It's a great one. It has markings up to 3 inches. Again, very small markings. You can see here, my pencil doesn't even really fit in those. So you get a lot of movement when you're trying to scribe something. If you're throwing your pencil in here, you can get some movement on there. If you're using like a carpentry pencil that's a little bit thicker, something that's not super sharp, you're gonna have some issues. But then again, this is more for trim work. So if you're doing trim work, you should be rocking probably a number 2 very sharp pencil anyway. So that probably won't be too big of an issue with this 4 inch. There's other 4 inch out there that are a little more expensive that I would recommend over this one. But then again, if you're starting out, you don't need a 4 inch. Get yourself the typical 7.5 inch or whatever it is, 7 inch, and roll with that. The last one that I want to talk about is the Squijig Smart Speed Square, the Squijig Speed Square, and I want to show you some of the features. Now, again, when you can see with the prices that I'm putting up here, this one's significantly more expensive than the rest of these, which I would not recommend getting this if you're starting in carpentry and you're new. This is just going to be a lot for you to handle in the beginning anyway. It's not really useful in the grand scheme of things, so I would wait until you're really in the game to get this. But if you are again, professional or a full-time carpenter or builder, this is definitely going to save you time, and I'll kind of showcase some of the features on this. Some of the features that are cool, but if I'm being honest, I never ever use, is there is a 9/16 and a 1/2 inch or 14 millimeter wrench. So if you want to change the blade on your circular saw, you can utilize these two. You can also use them for other bolts that are close to that size. So if you need to screw something in, you can. If you need to remove your saw blade, you can do something like that. Great idea. I think it's awesome to have this in case you end up on rafters wanting to tighten up your blade and you don't have the tool inside of your circular saw. This could come in handy. It kind of removes one of the tools that you need to have with you. So that could be a good option depending on how much you would utilize that. The other thing is you can see that it has a torpedo level. Now this torpedo level is pretty awesome. This removes the need for me to have this torpedo level with me. Now the only reason I carry this torpedo with me is because it has a magnet on it, and I do utilize it to pick up nails. This sounds kind of stupid, but sometimes if I have screws in the bottom of my bag, I can throw this torpedo down there and kind of magnetic pull them out. So that's nice. The other aspect is that it has measurements on the foot of it or on the belly of it, whatever you want to call it, where you can go from 1 inch all the way up to 7.5 inches. So that's really nice. If you want to just pull quick measurements, you have a basic tape measure right here that you can utilize for whatever reason. So that's clutch. The other thing about the level on here is that you have good visibility. You have visibility from the bottom, you have visibility from the side. If I'm holding this over my head here, because of this cutout, I can still see that bubble, which is really nice, and I love it. And if you ever damage that level, you can actually pull these screws out, pop that out, and put a brand new one in there. So again, the reason the price is higher on this one is because of the longevity of this square. The biggest issue you're gonna have to worry about is losing it. They gave you space in here to put your hand in here. I think that's what that's for, is to actually be able to get your fingers in here and slide this into your bags without having to worry about, you know, grabbing in weird angles. So that's nice. One thing that I really do love about this, and this is probably the #1 thing, is I have markings all the way up to about 5 3/4 inches. So when I throw this on the line, I can pop my pencil into that 1 inch mark, and I can scribe very securely without my pencil falling outside of that mark, which is super, super helpful. Not only that, I get, let's see, I go from, you know, 1/4 inch to 3/8 to 1/2 inch to 5/8 to 3/4 inches to 7/8. So I have a mark on both sides going up in increments of 1/8. So unlike all the other squares that do, I think, a maximum of 1/4 inch, I now have access to 1/8 of an inch on my speed square, which is, when framing, that's mainly what you're going to come down to. So I have access to really go with whatever marking that I want to do all the way down the line. So that's super helpful and really awesome. This is not engraved, it's flat, but I've been told that the way they've coated this, it shouldn't rub off. I've only had this one for a couple months now, so again, that durability test is yet to be made because I don't just torture test tools. I use them on the job site and I'll report back. So I'll make another video here in about let's say 6 months or so to really showcase durability. Now, I was cutting some 4x4s that were coated in tar, so you'll see a little bit of tar rubbed off on this Squijig. But honestly, if I took a sponge and some water to it, I could probably clean it up. But in the end, it's not covering any of my markings, so I have no problem. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys, and I would love for you guys to leave this in the comment section. I do not know what this marking, so we have 1 3/4 inch, we have 1.5 inch, then we have this angle here, and then we have some other markings in here, which I'm actually not sure what this spot is used for. Someone told me once, but I completely forgot. So if someone in the comment section can let me know what this interior mark spot is for, I would actually greatly appreciate that because I do want to learn how to utilize that because I just don't know how. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm not going to pretend I know everything. I definitely don't. So that's an awesome thing that you could potentially use if you know how. So overall, this is obviously my favorite square. It's about $100. It ranges from about $100 to $150 for this speed square, which I think is valuable for someone who is a builder, who is full-time, on the job in the trades. This is a great tool to eliminate multiple tools. Again, I think if I were to recommend any of these speed squares, if you're a professional, I would obviously go with the Squijig. If you're a professional, I would go with the Swanson. If you're an amateur, I'll go with the Swanson. The other ones of these, I just wouldn't recommend. If you're a trim carpenter, you can go with the 4.5 inch. I rarely use that unless I'm doing interior one-by work. And even then, sometimes if I just don't have it, I don't even bother going and getting it. I usually use my 4 inch or my 7.5 inch. So I wouldn't recommend the Milwaukee. I wouldn't really recommend the Empire. Again, the Empire is fine. If you're doing 45-degree angles and rafters and that's all you're really doing, you're going to be fine with any of these. Again, I'm not going to tell you one is, I'll tell you one is better. The Squijig is significantly better than all of these. But again, how much more money are you going to pay for features that you don't actually use? So when you sit here watching this video, you're like, what do I use my speed square for? If all this stuff that I showed you, the scribing, the torpedo, the bolts, whatever this interior thing is, those things, in my opinion, if you utilize that, obviously this is valuable for you. If you don't, then there really is no reason to go out and drop $100 on a speed square just because it looks cool. Same thing about this Martinez hammer. It's awesome to have. I love it. It swings great. It's comfortable. But is it worth $300 when it comes to efficiency, time saving, and actual weight of the hammer? I would have to say no. But it's awesome to have. This was actually gifted to me by Owens Corning Lumber, which is what I'm drawing on right now. So I would never go out and buy one of these personally. But again, it comes down to your preference. I encourage people to focus on your craft more than you focus on the tools that do your craft. I know guys that have the shittiest tools and they can do the best work. I know guys that have the nicest tools and they can't put a plumb lineup, right? So it is what it is. These are the 5 squares. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. If you want to see some videos, leave a request in the comment section and we'll go from there. Much love, y'all.